Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, let's talk about, so part of being a roaster, I'm always cupping brews and coffees, obviously. But there's the other side, which is not really so concerned about like figuring out if there's something wrong or particularly right, I guess, or quality control wise. It's more just to enjoy, right? Or to figure out what I like and experiment and try things and actually just drink a cup of coffee like a normal person. So brewing is another thing alongside of cupping. Cupping is a little bit more accentuated. It's almost enhanced in terms of trying to figure out what certain flavors are and to really figure that out. And you're not exactly drinking it and letting it sit in your tummy and taking bigger gulps or small gulps or whatever. So when you brew coffee in the cup and you're actually, in your routine and drinking coffee like a normal person, that's a different experience. So it's important as a roaster that I actually, in a way, test that as well. And so for me, besides all of the testing for business stuff, I guess, or quality control, there's just a thing like, what do I like? What do I like? Why do I like it like that? And can I document it and can I keep replicating that? And if I have a certain coffee that I'm getting, say it's like from Mexico, or say it's from Africa, or say it's from Colombia, like, do I have a preference in how I like to brew that? And you wouldn't know at first until you start to document and take notes about that whole process, right? And so I want to show you guys how I do it. And I do that with this. And this little, it's basically a coffee brewer's logbook. So I'll show you. It's really pretty. I think I've showed it off before. Kind of, there you go. Kind of get blown out here. It's basically a grid, and you can fill it out, and you can just start to experiment, document, take notes, and try it, right? In terms of what kind of brew method, what grind size, how long you brewed it for, what was your yield, okay? And so this first thing in here, it says brew method. So the first thing I did in here was I had the stag brewer, and then what was my grind setting, what was my water temp, what was the dose of coffee in, and then the water in or yield, you can kind of decide. I actually started to record both, and a lot of things like with note taking, and if it's note taking for the first time, and we'll get into this in terms of like how I take notes for roasting and when I'm at the roaster versus like how I take notes now versus how I used to take notes. We'll talk about that in a different video, but with these notes, it's really, you're going to have to, like, even though this is a nice template, eventually you'll work into a pattern, or you'll start to see a pattern in which you seem to taste the best brews, or maybe you don't like certain brews in a certain pattern, right? And so that's the point of documentation, is to, pull results from the data. What can I discern from this data that I'm collecting? And you may even develop your own shorthand or whatever, or you may not even need certain parameters to write down anymore just because, I don't know, maybe you've developed a little system. But the point is that you start with, say, maybe documenting as much as you can and just being consistent until you can create some sort of result from it or produce some sort of consistent result that aligns with your goals, and then adjust your note-taking further. So as we get on in here, like, you'll eventually end up with something that you like to do, and you'll be sort of brainless about, and you won't end up filling out this whole thing. And so I was just doing this before starting out. When I started to take notes and everything, I would do it for every single brew, not really knowing what I was taking notes for yet, because this was a new process for me. And I wanted to see, like, well, okay, what is the best brew method for an AeroPress versus a V60 with the same coffee, right? So we can run little experiments like this. If it matters to you, you can do whatever experiment you want. And it doesn't have to be in a brew book. It could simply be on a piece of legal pad. Like, that's my favorite way to take notes. I don't have any legal pads, and I just feel bad because I don't want to waste paper. So I just do it on whatever paper. But that'd be my favorite way to take notes. And you can find out like 20 grams for AeroPress usually works for me at a coarser grind, right? And then 18 grams at a little bit finer grind works better for me in a V60 pour over. And that was based off of, I didn't just start there out of thin air. I got those recipes from a lot of those coffee blogs that are out there already that already recommend those doses. So in terms of like documenting, you can start with a standard recipe that you can Google online anytime, anywhere, and then just test it and see if you like it. You know, oh, okay, I brewed over 2 minutes for this one, or I brewed over 2 minutes 30, 3 minutes even, whatever, right? So, and then you can just take notes. And something that's, I think, missing from this log and sort of template is maybe like a space for, did I like it? Was it okay? Didn't like it. So maybe I could see pretty easily after looking at all of my notes for, say, this AeroPress or Stag Brewing, I'd be like, oh, it seems like I like this one a lot, right? Otherwise, I was making the notation myself, but it was a little bit harder to see if I liked it or not without that sort of like, you know, I don't know, a happy face, a sad face, like a line in the center face, whatever. And they have things like roast level, roast date, all this stuff. And yeah, I could maybe redesign this in a way that serves me, because it all depends on what your goals are, right? Is it for personal consumption, or is it for quality control for your espresso customer base for this particular coffee, right? So you could definitely have two separate logbooks, one for personal, right? And then one for quality control, one for espresso even, one for V60s, one for AeroPress, one for filter coffees, whatever. All kinds of stuff that you could sort of start organizing data and pulling patterns from so that you could create some real discernible results or findings, right? And then when you have that, now you'll have confidence and sort of be able to go into any coffee shop and look at any coffee and be like, well, I really love that AeroPress recipe, and that's how I prefer it. That's what I like. I like a little bit more body in my cup. You know, I'm not really into the delicate stuff. So if I know that and I've taken good notes, you know, and I have good results that I've pulled and findings for myself, then I can feel really confident when I go and shop for coffees for myself or for others. I could even recommend to my friends and even ask them like, hey, do you like this kind of coffee, or do you like this kind of coffee? And I think that's really nice, because it in the end, coffee is for everybody and it's meant to be enjoyed. And when you can kind of pass the torch and communicate all those things in a conversation or whatever it is over coffee, that's really nice, right? And so all this kind of note taking and being nerdy with coffee, and is this necessary? No, you can do whatever the hell you want. Okay. I was just asked. So this is how I've been, that's what I've been doing with this data. I mean, you know, it's like you can get this really nice book and I'm like, okay, but what am I really going to do with this data? You know, as you can see, I'm still in the very beginning of it, right? I could get definitely more into it. Sometimes I don't even make it in here. I just pull whatever paper I have, because this template doesn't always serve my goals. So sometimes I don't use it. So for me, this has ended up being more of a personal coffee logbook and brewer book for me. And then for quality control, it ends up being like whatever paper over there. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely tailor your own. You could Google Sheet it and just print out a nice template for yourself. And I think it's a cool way to just keep the cycle going, learning all the time too. You may develop your own recipe for, like I said, all the different types of brew methods, and that's cool. You know, it's good to know. All right, so that is my brew logbook. That's how you could do it at home. You don't need anything fancy, but that's why you would also want to do a brew logbook. And I hope that was helpful. Okay, cool. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.